If you remember, he would go away alone to the mountain. He would leave. He would leave the disciples. He'd leave them all by themselves. He'd go off to the mountain. Because you remember when the woman touched his garment and he could feel it come out of him, she was healed. But the idea here, at least as it relates to us as healers, is you have to be aware of the impact that this work has on you. There is a toxicity that can come if you don't engage in self-care. And self-care broadly defined, it's whatever soothes you, rejuvenates you, replenishes that energy. And it's got to be pro-social. It can't be, boozing down at the club. Or staying out dancing till 4 in the morning, even though, sometimes that could be a fun time. It's got to be something what I would call pro-social in terms of that rejuvenating. You may not necessarily have to withdraw to the mountain like Jesus did, but you've got to engage in some kind of self-care. And I'll be honest with you, this transition that I'm doing right now, in terms of, I taught at Mercyhurst for 9 years, and what they did was, for whatever reason, they closed the department I was teaching in. And so I've referred to myself for the past 2 years as a professor between teaching gigs, which I might have to rethink now, because this is going on a little bit too long to keep using that phrase. But I had the option of just going back to full-time private practice. And actually, I did not want to do that. It was at this juncture in my career, now you remember, I've been a therapist 35 years. I don't think I'm burned out, but I don't think I can hold all of that pain that my clients bring to me and do them justice. And we're talking, when I was doing full time, I had 32 clients a week, 1-hour sessions. And it was not unusual for me to see 10 people back to back. Very foolish. But, I was younger then. I thought, I can do this. Right? That's not a wise move for self-care. You've got to pace yourself in terms of how you give out your gems. Because what you're doing, when you breathe life into people, there is something that goes from you. And it never comes back void. Just like we're talking about, the scripture talks about the Lord, His word never comes back void. When you love on somebody in the intimate relationship, a therapeutic relationship, never comes back void. I don't care if that person fires you, they swear up and down to the community that you're a joke, it does not come back void. It doesn't. But the other side of that is you've got to fill that emotional tank back up again. And actually that would maybe be a good place to transition to and hear from you. What do you do to engage in self-care? You know what I do for self-care? I sing in a black gospel choir. In fact, every rotation that I've gone on, I go to the bases. They always have a couple different services: Catholic, Contemporary Protestant, and a gospel service, which is mostly African American. And we grew up in a predominantly African American neighborhood. So in that sense, it's not really that much of a leap, even though I do look like the man. And each one of these rotations, I will go to whoever the minister of music is and say, hey, do you need another tenor? And they usually have people transitioning in and out. And they do kind of look at me wondering, but then whenever they get a chance to hear me sing, then they're okay with it. But just this past rotation, I just want you to know, I actually did a lead on Easter Sunday, Oh Mary Don't You Weep, but in the band was none other than Waldo Weathers on the saxophone, who was one of the original JBs with James Brown, and the percussionist who was on the xylophone and the drums was Pops Wilson from the George Benson Band. And then we had all these divas, all these ladies that were just... So I don't know if that fits with you. Singing, there's something about singing, making music, especially gospel music, that just, I mean, I could feel the life come back into me in terms of something.
How'd you like to hear a
self-care.
sample of them sing?
Yeah.
Can we impose upon it? Can you give us a...
Jeez, now you're really asking for a lot. I'll give you a little tidbit. This is, actually, I sang to my dissertation committee after I passed. And I was just in touch with Mike Mesner a couple of months ago and asking for a letter of recommendation for one of these jobs I was applying for. And he said to me, Tom, I just want you to know that was the first time anybody had ever sang to me, and I still have not had anyone else sing to me since then. But the song that I sang is actually my favorite spiritual. And I don't know, there's just something about the spirituals and that gospel music that just resonates. I think, I understand where it came from in terms of the struggles with the slaves and coming from Africa, and just that, you know, trying to get emancipated. And then to have it get emancipation, and then for another 100 years for it to continue. But I think it also resonates for me as a Christian in terms of the encouragement to hang on, you know, better day is coming, don't give up. There are all these very clear themes that are very common in it. This one, Wade in the Water, is a transitional spiritual. Granted, as it relates to the slaves, they used to sing this out when the slaves were trying to escape, that you need to get down to the water, because that was going to be the way to make their way out of the dogs and the plantation or wherever they were trying to get away from. So you have those other messages embedded in it. But Wade in the Water also has to do with baptism, transformation, a change from one to the next in terms of becoming a new creature. And the reason that I sang it to the committee was, you know, I mean, I was going from my MA to PhD, you know, which for me that was a transformation. So let's see if I can get it together. Whew. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Now Jordan, the river is chilly and cold. God's gonna trouble the water. It chills the body but not the soul. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. I bet you didn't think you were going to get that thing.
I think we're done. We need a break.